Folks, we are going to take a look at the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360, 15.6 inch, 16 gig of RAM, 512 SSD, and we are going to compare it with this Surface Laptop 4. This is the 15 inch Surface Laptop 4. It's the Ryzen Edition, 16 gig, 512 SSD. So both of these cost about the same at $1,500, give or take a couple of dollars, and what's on sale and all that kind of fun stuff. They're both positioned as 15-inch real workhorses. I mean, it's not the top, most powerful you can get, but this is the middle of the road. Hey, I need to be able to get a decent amount of stuff done as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I don't want to be waiting around, for pages to load. I'm impatient. I just want to get on with what I want to get on with. This is the sweet spot of what we'd be going for and looking at. So let's dive in and let's see what we think. So first of all, look at the screens here. As you can see, how white the Samsung AMOLED is compared to how yellow tinted the Surface screen is. What's interesting to me as well isn't just the screen, but it's the way the screen's rendered. So I'm in Microsoft Edge on both machines. But if you notice, look at the spacing here between the menu, top stories, for you, following, save searches. Look how different it is over here on the Surface. Now it's the same browser. Nothing has been changed, completely stock standard, just set up the devices. This seems more spaced, the font seems thinner, maybe a touch harder to read than these over here. And then when you look at the actual information on the screen, this also feels a bit more spaced out. Obviously there's more at the bottom here because the 15-inch Surface has this 3:2 ratio screen, which is nice and tall. You can see how much we gain at the top and then how much we gain at the bottom. It's a decent amount on both sides, so it does make it a lot taller to work with. Obviously, having an extra wide screen isn't helpful because I get all this white space that I don't have over here, although if I full screen it, I still get a little bit of white space that's unnecessary. When I look at things like the menu, I've got health and then get the Android app is at the bottom, but I gain all these lines underneath still. I find it really intriguing that they would render the same information so differently, and that's something that you're going to have to think about if you're looking at one of these devices, because you may prefer one over the other. You might prefer your fonts a little bit bolder. Sure, you can tweak things and play around in the settings, but fundamentally, this is the way they're driving this stuff right out the box. And I think it's a good indication of the different approaches that Microsoft have taken to Samsung. We'll go check out something else and let's see if it gets any different. Let's go shopping. So we pulled up bestbuy.com, and just to be clear, they're both set on 100% maximum brightness. Again, colors more vivid, brighter, definitely on the Samsung. But to be fair, the Microsoft is no slouch. And when you're sitting directly in front, there actually isn't that much of a difference. If anything, I would say that the Microsoft's blue is a little bit bluer. It's a little bit deeper compared to the Samsung. But again, I get 2 rows on the Samsung. I get 3-4 rows on the Surface laptop. However, let's move down here from the screen and let's talk about some other differences between the two. Trackpad, much larger on the Samsung. If you look at the Surface, I've got this wasted area at the top and the bottom. I don't understand why Microsoft did not go ahead and make the trackpad bigger. They've got all the space to do it. Everybody's going to bigger trackpads. It's just nicer. And frankly, there's a whole lot of palm rest area here. You just don't need this much. So there's literally no reason at all for them not to do it. They just didn't want to. And I think it's a missed opportunity because they should have. From a trackpad feel, again, listen to the clickiness. And here's the Surface. Much quieter trackpad. It also feels more precise. It's like it's a slightly muddier click, but in a good way. Just a little bit of friction behind it versus the hollow, empty click of the Samsung. And interestingly, the keyboards do the exact same thing. Very clackety, not so clackety. And from a feel, the springiness under the keys, the Surface laptop, I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorite keyboards. I liked it on the previous gen. I like it on this gen. I like it more than my MacBook Pro. It's one of the best laptop keyboards I've ever used. And I think that's because Microsoft comes from a business first, enterprise first perspective, where people are on these devices all day working, typing, and using the keyboard. I know creatives use them, but I think that's the DNA of where they come from, and they put a lot of thought and effort into it. Keyboard is just fantastic on the Surface laptop. Between the two, definitely the winner. So I think at this point with the devices like this, I would give the win to Samsung on the screen by a fraction or a hair. The Surface is definitely there color-wise. The Samsung's a little bit brighter, but then I like the extra height of the Surface screen. But if I had to choose a winner, I'd probably go with the Samsung. Keyboard and trackpad. From a feel and a functionality perspective, I would choose the Surface laptop all day long. From a size of the trackpad, if you just want to have a bigger trackpad, obviously the Samsung has the larger one, so I can't really say too much about that. Battery life is an interesting one. They are very similar from what I've been able to see. Obviously, this is not a long-term review. I haven't had these things, for weeks and months because the Samsung just came out and the Surface only came out a few weeks beforehand. From the testing that I've been able to do, from the work I've been able to do, the batteries seem pretty similar. Microsoft have made huge advancements with the Surface 4 line compared to Surface 3. It was criticized pretty heavily for battery life, and these new AMD chips seem like they're doing some magic here and making things work. From a benchmark perspective, there's some great YouTube videos you can go check out and also some tech sites you can see. So I don't want to get bogged down on the technical side of things, but the processor in the Surface laptop is definitely getting some praise. On multi-core processes, it's outperforming a lot of the stuff out there, including the MacBooks and the M1 chip for certain applications. So if multi-core processing is your thing, the Ryzens are looking good. And there's a reason why AMD is growing, I think almost 100% year on year. They are killing it right now on their laptop chips, on their desktop chips. Apple are definitely killing it with the Apple Silicon chips. So Intel are really on the back foot. And they've never been there in decades. They've always been the leader. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out and how they can step their game back up, because AMD are definitely killing it for right now in the world of Windows. And I'm highly impressed with the chip. If I was choosing on these two machines from a chip alone, I would say the Surface laptop actually feels a little bit snappier just in day-to-day use, considering that the specs are pretty even. I have not tested these in multi-core. I haven't thrown in some 4K video. I think we're going to do that just for grits and see what that looks like. My gut feeling is I suspect the AMD is going to outperform the Intel, but maybe I'll come back to you on that one and we'll get technical at a later date. Other things that you're going to be interested in. Size, obviously, we've talked about this already. Screen ratio, 15.6 inches. It's a 16:9 widescreen. The Surface laptop comes in at a dead 15-inch and 3.2. You can see from me holding them in my hands what a difference that makes. The Surface definitely looks a little chunkier. The Samsung looks a little bit kind of thinner and taller. Weight-wise, very similar. Surface is definitely heavier. Samsung noticeably lighter. Neither of them feel particularly bad. These are 15-inch laptops. It's not that long ago that 15 inches were just like bricks in your backpack. They both feel pretty good, and I think I'd be happy carrying either one around day by day. But let me show you a little non-scientific test here. And this is the kind of stuff that really bugs me when I'm using a device. So I'm going to let you into a little Mikey secret. So here's my non-scientific test. And we're going to call this the stickability test. We haven't done this before, but it's something I noticed when I was playing with these two machines, and I want you to see it too, because I don't think I've seen this anywhere else. So this may be a YouTube worldwide premiere first, and you saw it on Tech Talk with Mr. T, the new brand name for my channel. And no, I don't have gold chains and a mohawk, and if you don't know what that means, go Google Mr. T and you will find that out later. When you use a laptop, call me old-fashioned, but I don't always use it on my lap. I use it on a table quite a lot. And I suspect if you're like me, you probably do the same thing as well. But when I put it on a table, I want it to stay where I put it and not move. So I have one of these kind of leather table protectors here on this studio desk that I like to use. And I also have one of these on my regular desk as well. Just helps me keep things clean and organized. But check this out. I'm not putting any pressure at all. This thing just slides around. It just slides. I try and open it and I'm literally trying to lift it up, but it's just sliding off the thing. I come to the Surface, it's sliding the whole mat. The device itself is not moving. I go to open the screen, one finger open, and I'm right there. Nothing's moving at all. And that's all because of the way that they've designed the feet. Now it's strange because You would think that these are like the hard plastic, but they're not. They've got a rubber feel to them. It's just crap. These, on the other hand, also have a rubber feel to them, and it's awesome. So if the stickability of your laptop to your desk is important to you, this is not even a contest. Surface laptop, hands down, stays where you want it to stay, doesn't slide all over the place when you open it with one hand because you've got your Starbucks in the other, or your Big Mac, or whatever it is that you're doing with your left hand. It could just be your phone and you're scrolling. It's a little thing, but it's the little things that count. Finally, let's talk about ports. We've got two USB-Cs here on the Samsung on the left side. We've got the heat dissipation coming out the back on the grill. On the right side, I got a micro SD. I got one more USB-C, and I've got a headphone jack. So basically, 3 USB-Cs, a micro SD, and a headphone jack. For a 2021 laptop, that's a pretty decent spec. It would have been nice to have a USB-A, but not the end of the world. I think it's a good balance. I think 3 USB-Cs is great. One on each side is definitely great, so that if you're plugging in on one side or you're plugging in the other side, you're not dragging a cable around you and then you trip over it when you get up. We've all done it. Don't look at me like that. Surface laptop, USB-A, USB-C, headphone jack on the left, and then the Surface connector on the right. So much weaker from a port selection. You're missing 2 USB-Cs compared to the Samsung. That could catch you out, although you do gain the USB-A, so you got a little bit of backwards compatibility and flexibility. Honestly, I think it's time to ditch the Surface connector. I think it's time to get another USB-C on here. Whether they want to admit it or not, the Surface laptop is their best seller. It sells more than the Surface Book, and it's definitely more practical and usable than the Surface Pro, because if you need anything more than a 12-inch kind of tablet-sized screen, you have to go to one of the laptops. I know they've got the 13-inch Surface Pro, but it's the ARM chip, and they're still having some issues with that and all that kind of good stuff, so it's not quite, mainstream. I think port selection is okay on both of them overall. I would give the win to the Samsung because at the end of the day, it's got more ports and it's more future-proof, and that's what matters. And finally, I guess we're going to talk about software. If you've watched any of my Windows reviews, you know I complain about the same thing all the time, so I don't want to make a big deal about it here. But both of these machines come pre-installed with a ton of Windows bloat, and you're going to spend 20 minutes uninstalling it. It's as simple as that. The difference is Samsung includes all the Samsung extras on top of the Windows extras. The Surface just has the Windows extras. And no matter how many times Microsoft wants to give me Candy Crush Saga, whatever it's called, I'm not going to play Candy Crush. I just don't need it there. So it's going to get removed. Other than that, it's standard Windows on both. Not really much else to say on the software side of things. So let's move on. All right, well, there you have it. Quick overview of the Surface Laptop 4 15-inch Ryzen Edition against the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360. Yes, I know I didn't talk about it, but you're right, we probably should have. If this is important to you, this is a 360 device. It will go all the way around, and the Surface laptop will not go all the way around because it's a clamshell device. So that's as far as it's going to go. Other than that, you're kind of swapping it down. Two great devices, similar price points. Build quality feels great on both of them. They both feel premium. They've both got great screens. I like the taller Surface versus the slightly shorter Galaxy. To recap on the wins, Galaxy wins on the screen, Surface wins on the keyboard and trackpad for the feel and functionality. Galaxy wins on the bigger trackpad. Battery life is similar on both. Ports, newer, greater, better. USB-Cs all over on the Samsung. A little bit of backwards compatibility on the Surface. Stickability test, Samsung slides all over my desk. Surface doesn't go anywhere. If it was me and I was buying one of these two machines today, the win would go to the Surface Laptop 4. I love the form factor. I don't care about the flip all the way around. I like the Ryzen chip. I can live with the port selection, but I love the keyboard. I love the trackpad and the screen. Love the 3:2 ratio. I think all laptops should be 3:2 personally at 15 inches or under. That's just me. Let me know what you think. Let me know which one you go and get. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them. And until next time, let's go out there and be amazing.